Linear progression is one of the simplest and most straightforward way to make steady and consistent progress. I was at the gym recently and I was talking with one guy. He had like a really bad progress recently and he was really overcomplicating his training programming. He was throwing a lot of unnecessary shit in there. He was really doing a lot of variables, but he didn't do them in a systematical way. So I just asked him, why don't you just use linear progression? Oh, linear progression doesn't work for me anymore, bro. Fair enough, but linear progression still works for me and I move like twice as much weight as you do, so I really doubt that you have such bad genetics. So I asked him how did his linear progression training program look like, the one that didn't work for him. And honestly, I didn't know that you can fuck up a simple linear progression that much, so this is why I decided to make this video. So I will just explain every major mistake that people do with linear progression that I can think of, so that you can just make steady and consistent gains for years, even once you become intermediate and even advanced. But before we begin, in case you are new here, my name is Karol. I have 6 years of experience in strength training and building muscle. I've tested countless different training systems, programs and methodologies, and I've built what I consider is a 10 out of 10 physique while enjoying every single workout. If you want my personal help with training programming in order to make the most gains in the shortest amount of time, shoot me a DM on Instagram, it's the first link in the description. So the first mistake I often see, and I also used to do it a lot, is that people often start their linear progression program with an RPE of like 9 or even higher. And they not only start with it, but they actually maintain it with each and every single following workout. So they have like 1 or even less reps in the tank by the end of every single set. And this is really bad because strength and muscle with compound movements can be built with like 2 or 3 even reps in the tank, but if you have like 1 or none reps in the tank at every set, your CNS will get really burnt out. And besides that, when you start making slower adaptation, the weight gains will be just too much for you and you will start overcompensating for the lack of strength by having a bad technique, or you will just be hitting a complete muscular failure before completing your set, which is even worse for the CNS. And as we all know, having a bad technique or actually failing a rep on compound movements with a lot of weight is very dangerous for you. With linear progression, I really like to keep my RPE on like 7 on like 7 or 8 in every single set, which means I have like 2 to 3 maximum reps in the tank by the end of every set. And I believe it's just the best option for strength from what I've read and what I've learned from other people. And it's also pretty good for hypertrophy. It's not like the best for hypertrophy, but hey, you just can't have both at the same time. But it is still really good for hypertrophy. And this also gives me the necessary room that in case my adaptations will not be as high as I expected, I will be able to just complete every single set with a bit higher RPE. However, the situation when your RPE suddenly jumps up to like 9 or even more than 9 can happen for everyone, and it has actually happened for me a few times. So there are a few simple things you can do without sacrificing any progression in order to slightly make that RPE lower, to go back to like 8 or even 7. So what do I mean by that? Basically, let's say you do 3 sets of 5 reps of 100 kg squats and the RPE is like 8 on every single set. So it's like perfect for building strength and really good for hypertrophy at the same time. And you've been recently progressing really nicely. You've been doing like 5 kg weight jumps for the last couple of sessions. But on the next workout, you go to the gym and 105 kg feels really heavy for you. So you manage to complete your 3 sets of 5 reps, but the RPE is like 9 on the first set and then like 9 and a quarter on the second and third set. So how you can make that RPE go lower on the next training session? The single best way to do that is to just make a lower weight jump on the next training session. So instead of jumping 5 kg again and doing 110 kgs, you jump only 2.5 kgs and you do like 107.5 kgs. And what should happen is that you will progress with strength, even on RPE like 9 and 9.5. As long as you have enough recovery, you will adapt just fine with strength. So you should be stronger, and your RPE on the next training session, if you also do 3 sets of 5 reps, but with 107.5 kg instead of 110, should be lower than 9, should be lower than last time basically. However, if that doesn't work, that means you're starting to face a slight plateau. And what you can do in that situation is either you could hang out for a while at that exact weight, 107.5 kgs, and add, for example, like one set more to still keep the progressive overload going. You never want to repeat the same exact training session twice. Remember that. You always want to have some kind of progressive overload. It doesn't have to be weight gain, it can be, for example, just one set more. And this also might be able to make further adaptations, so you can finally go to 110 kgs and hopefully do that for an RPE of less than 9. Or the other thing you can do is buy some microplates on Amazon. Microplates are basically like plates, but they are like micro. So basically they add like only 1 kg to the bar. And you can still keep progressive overload with that. And basically this process that I just explained you should successfully lower down your RPE from 9 to just less than 9. And if your RPE is less than 9 and you're consistently adding weight to the bar, you're just in a sweet spot. Keep doing what you're doing, it certainly works. So don't rotate anything, don't change anything. If you have progress and you are like greedy and you want a better progress, you will fuck something up and you will just face a massive plateau. This is just an unspoken rule of universe that always happens. However, the opposite situation can also happen where you really progress nicely. So for example, recently you did like 90 kg squat for 3 sets of 5 reps, and now you are supposed to do 95 kg squat for 3 sets of 5 reps, but it feels like incredibly light. You do 3 sets of 5 reps and you have like an RPE of 7 or even 6.5 on each set. So what should you do in that situation? Obviously you could just keep the regular weight jumps going, but it won't really maximize the potential gains you could make. So the alternative, the better alternative, is to just adjust the weight accordingly to your RPE. And let me explain what I mean by that. And this takes us actually to the second point. I forgot to say that. Doing too small weight jumps when the progress is good. This is the second mistake people often do. So I get it. You have a system. You have always increased the weight by like 5 kg. You're used to it. And it actually might even feel a little bit scary to increase the weight by more. But remember that progress, in most cases, especially for beginners, is not linear. The progress is usually exponential, so it is like an S-curve. Here you have an exact chart. And why is that? Why the progress curve is like an S-curve? Why it is not linear? It doesn't make sense. So basically, when you first start doing something, you really have to figure out the proper technique to do that. And it might take you a couple of workouts until you do that, until you build that muscle memory, until the neuroplasticity in your brain starts working. And when your body finally figures out like the proper technique, you feel fully comfortable with the movement. That is when the progress often like skyrockets. The adaptations, both neurological and muscular, just start going like crazy, and it happens for a lot of beginners with multiple different lifts. Then after some time, progress obviously slows down, because if you were to have that good of a progress for like months or years, you would be an Olympic athlete in 2 years of training. So obviously it slows down as it gets just closer to the ceiling of your genetic ability. However, with times, with years, even with decades, your strength will often go very close to that ceiling, but it will never touch it. This is the beautiful thing with strength training. Even if you train for like 20 years, if you have a very good training program, then you can still make gains. Again, this S-curve progress chart might not happen for everyone and for every lift, but again, it's very common, so you might start getting an idea why 5 kg jumps every single workout are just not the best system for most people. Some workouts might be just incredibly easy and you won't cause much adaptation at all. So this is why a better way to manage this is, again, as I said, managing your weight jumps according to the RPE. And how you do that? So for example, throughout the last couple of workouts, you have been adding like 5 kg to your squat, and the RPE was always 8. So the progress was just stable, linear, but suddenly you add 5 kg again and you feel like the RPE is like 7.5. So your body clearly made a better adaptation. So you might actually start expecting that you are starting to get on that exponential curve. So on the next training session, the weight feels considerably lighter, and you remind yourself, wait, I had an RPE of 7.5 last time, so now I actually feel like I could make slightly higher weight jump. So you do a weight jump of like 7.5 kg, and guess what? RPE is even lower, it's straight 7. This can happen when you are exactly on that exponential curve of progress. So on the next training session, you add even more, you add 10 kg, and the RPE might be slightly higher again, so it might be like 7.5 again. So you actually see that now your RPE is slightly higher than it was last time, so you might expect that 10 kg is just the most you can add, and you probably won't be able to add 10 kgs again, because your RPE would probably increase even more. So now you add again 7.5 kgs and you make really good progress again. So you see what I mean, you can really just make a lot greater and faster gains if you manage your weight jumps according to your RPE. And the basic rule of thumb is to just never let your RPE get below 7. Because if it gets below 7, that just means you increased the weight by too low on that workout. And again, it's not like a huge problem, it's not like a huge mistake people make, but you know, if they are adding like 5 kg every single workout and they are experiencing the exponential curve of progress, they will just not take advantage of it. They will lose a solid few workouts worth of progress. So this is why it is just so important if you want the quickest possible gains. And I'm sure that fucking everyone wants that. And the third mistake I see people make really often with linear progression is ending the linear progression too quickly, assuming the linear progression stopped working for them, assuming they are already too advanced to benefit from a pure linear approach. And this is a mistake because you can really use a lot of different techniques to modify the linear progress and actually keep the gains going, even when you are like an advanced athlete already. If you are genuinely bored with linear progression and you want some novelty, you want a different program, that's fine, choose a program, because actually enjoying your workouts and making them not boring and monotonous will be a huge factor for your consistency and enjoyment from workouts. So absolutely do that. However, if you really like the system of linear progression and you want to keep it going for as long as possible, here are a few simple things you can do. So the first thing I already talked about are the microplates. Basically, you buy them, it's like 1 kg total, so one plate is like 0.5 kg. And you can just keep the linear progression going by adding that 1 more kg on every single workout. And you might say that, bro, 1 kg is such a low weight. The progression will be incredibly slow. But if you actually look at it, if you were to add that 1 kg on every single workout for like half a year, you would add 48 kgs to your lift, assuming you train twice a week. And if you are already like a stronger guy, adding 48 kgs to a lift can be just a huge difference. So this is a very powerful technique that not a lot of people do, but if you have like the grit and the discipline to stick to that slow but stable progression, you can really improve your lifts by a lot. Another thing you can do is to just switch the exercise. So if you have already like maxed out your gains with, let's say, a high bar squat, and you can no longer add like 2.5 kg or even 1 kg in case you used microplates, you can combine these both tactics and you just can't progress no more. The linear progression stopped completely. So what you can do now is to just change the exercise. You can choose, instead of high bar, you can start doing low bar, you can start doing like a front squat, a safety bar squat, a box squat. There is just a lot of different variables. And with each of these variables, you will be able to progress linearly, at least for a couple of weeks or months. And I can guarantee you that if you progress linearly with a lot of different variations of a squat, and you don't do like a high bar regular squat at all, it will improve significantly once you max out the linear progression on those other variables. I can guarantee that. And again, if you combine that method with 1 kg microplates, and you will just fully milk the linear progression with every single squat variable that you can think about, oh boy, it will take some serious amount of time, but you will be a fucking beast once you achieve that. And all that while still adding weight to the bar once or even twice per week for years and just enjoying your beginner gains. Besides that, you could also just, instead of linearly progressing like twice a week, you could start linearly progressing like once a week even once every 2 weeks or even once every month. But here we already step into the territory of more complex periodization, so I don't want to talk about in this video. But it's just an example, you see. You can still just keep the linear progression going by adding weight to the bar like once every couple of weeks. It doesn't have to be on every single workout. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If you want my personal help with your training programming, if you want to make the most gains in the shortest amount of time, shoot me a DM on Instagram, is the first link in the description. And I really hope I managed to be clear and and explain everything clearly in this video. And obviously, in case you didn't understand something, you want me to go deeper on a certain topic, just write a comment below and I will do exactly that. Peace out.